This episode is brought to you by Popeyes, who, by the way, just dropped their new Buffalo Ranch Chicken Sandwich, y'all. A delicious combo of zesty buffalo and creamy ranch sauce spread onto the internet's favorite chicken sandwich for a perfect kick of flavor. Try it and see what all the excitement is about. Visit Popeyes.com to order Popeyes Buffalo Ranch Chicken Sandwich today. Available at participating U.S. locations.
Empire.
Welcome to the latest edition of All's Caps after the Capitals blew another lead, lost Game 6 in overtime to the Florida Panthers with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzer. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. We keep starting this podcast like this, Karl. What went wrong? What did you see go wrong that knocked the Capitals out of the playoffs in the first round for the fourth consecutive year?
Yeah, I think it was not that. I don't necessarily think that the Florida Panthers beat the Washington Capitals. I think the Washington Capitals beat the Washington Capitals. You know, I think it was their series to win or lose. They definitely played good enough to win it. And it was just a couple little mental lapses, a couple mistakes where they weren't quite in the perfect position. And that's Florida Panthers for you. Give them an inch, they take a mile. And they did that on just the right amount of occasions. And the fact that they kept them to 0 goals on their power play and still ended up losing the series is kind of remarkable too.
Yeah, and earlier in the series we talked about it was whatever Florida was going to turn it on, but and they did. I think the Capitals play like this against a lesser opponent, you can still win a series. Like if you play like that against maybe the New York Rangers, somebody like that, you probably win the series just on talent. But when you play like that and blow the leads and the Panthers can score the way they can score, that's a bad recipe.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is it wasn't Barkov, it wasn't Huberdeau, it wasn't Duclair. You know, go down the list and have all these guys that can do it. And then it was
Carter Verhaeghe.
Carter Verhaeghe, yeah. Like it's not necessarily the guy you were expecting to put the dagger in you 2 games in a row, but it was. And so it just goes to show what kind of depth they have there. And that's the same thing that it'll be interesting for, you know, how the Caps can address that, right? Finding more depth offensive guys that can really chip in and turn the tide, because it's hard to find those guys. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. It
wasn't like there's one reason they lost the series. Like Ilya Samsonov played well for most of the series. I thought he was garbage in Game 6. I thought you had to pin the Game 6 loss on someone as Samsonov, but he played well the rest of the series. It's not like there's one thing where you're like, well, if they get this, they'll be fine. That's what makes something like this so tough, because blowing leads is such a psychological thing, and guys playing hurt, these sort of things. But to blow a lead in Game 4 at home, blow a lead in Game 5 when you're up 3-0, and then blow the lead in Game 6 at home when you're facing elimination, you can't win like that.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I mean. They beat themselves. I don't think that, you know, a team that you're playing against obviously turns it up a little bit because they have to in order to make a push. But it just, to me, it was weird. They felt like they were in control the entire series, and then they had it was never even a full period where they took the foot off the gas. It was portions of it. It was shifts. And it's just a mental grind. Like I was talking to Mandy about it earlier today, and she was at the game, so she could feel it, that it's just so electric when they score, and then it's just completely deflating when they don't. And it's interesting because it's not always that big of a difference in the regular season, but it goes to show you just how invested the fans are as well, right? Because they know that more is on the line, but also the players too, right? It's just like you're riding a high, and then all of a sudden something doesn't go your way, and it's being able to balance it a little bit more, which most guys are really great at, and a lot of teams are really good at it. But it's just way more noticeable in the playoffs.
You know what? And when the Panthers went up in that game, when Barkov scored the goal, I was convinced the Capitals were not tying it. There was not, until the penalty call, there was no part of me that thought the Capitals were actually going to tie the game. And then the penalty happens. Oshie scores. Place goes nuts. Like, that's one of the best atmospheres I've ever felt in that building last night when Oshie scores that goal, and you're not sure if the puck's in the net, and they announce it, and everybody goes nuts again, and Country Roads is playing. And then it's like still those nerves kind of creep in because you're facing elimination. If they don't blow that 3-0 lead in Florida, you're up 3-2 in that series, and you're going to overtime with a chance to knock out the Panthers. It's a whole different vibe in the building.
Oh man, there's so many situations you could look back and be like, oh, imagine they did this, they did that. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing with the Hathaway empty net goal, right? There was just so many opportunities for the Caps to be able to close this series out or take a serious stranglehold, and that's the way it works, right?
Yep.
You're always going to look back and find those. But like, let's talk about that tying goal though for a second. 3 times the puck was batted out of the air, and then ends up finding its way in the net. Like that's just goes to show the level of skill, especially with that amount of pressure and crunch time down the end of the game there. It was phenomenal to see. And I mean, we just have to shout out TJ because what a series by him. I think it was amazing to see because, you know, at times throughout the season, I think he took a little bit of hate from people, which is, in my opinion, coming from a place that you don't really understand what he does for that team, not just on the ice.
He does everything.
He does everything, and he's so good in the room, and guys love him. The fans love him. So it was, you know, I was just so happy to see him do that because he is such a valuable piece to the club and the whole organization, really. So yeah, it was fun to see. But yeah, we go back and look at we can pick apart all the chances, right? All the opportunities they had to seal the deal, and guys will do that. Individual players will think about it for a while and do a couple what ifs, but it's same thing. You just have to forget now.
Yeah, when we come back, I want to play a thing from TJ Oshie, kind of his thoughts on the series, and I want to talk more about TJ Oshie if we can, because he was the best Capitals player in the series. We'll get to that, and then some questions moving forward, what exit day interviews are like, and I guess the goaltending question, since we're wondering about that again. We'll talk more about that next on Oz Caps.
It's so nice out there in the Mexican markets where chilies stretch in the sun, high in the mountain air between backcountry skiers and kids doing the first snowplow, or next to the pool after a long day of forgetting what day it is. We're all here to get out there and come home more us than the us that went away. And when you save on travel as an Expedia member, you can travel even more. It's so nice out there. So let's go. Expedia. Made to travel. Terms apply. See site for details.
This episode is brought to you by Popeyes, who, by the way, just dropped their new Buffalo Ranch Chicken Sandwich, y'all. A delicious combo of zesty buffalo and creamy ranch sauce spread onto the internet's favorite chicken sandwich for a perfect kick of flavor. Try it and see what all the excitement is about. Visit Popeyes.com to order Popeyes Buffalo Ranch Chicken Sandwich today. Available at participating U.S. locations.
I mean, I think it's been different. Like I said, with the last 3 games, the game was in our hands. So that comes down to just finding a way to get the job done. In the other games, the last couple of years, we've been down, and teams have, kind of they've had their way with us a little bit. And I don't think the all-in aspect was quite there in the last couple of years. To this year, I think we were extremely close to being, 100% everyone on board. And we let 3 games get away from us. And I mean, in playoffs today, the margin of error is so small. One bad bounce or one missed read, and can change the whole momentum of the game. And all of a sudden, thinking you're going to go to their barn up 3-1, it's 2-2. Up 3-0, lose 5-3, now come here, up 2-1, I think it was under 10 minutes maybe, and then all of a sudden we're down 1 in the last couple minutes. So things happen fast, and we just didn't shut the door.
That was TJ Oshie after the Capitals lost Game 6 in overtime, not shutting the door, with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzer. I'm AP Hot Carter Steve Wino here on All's Caps. TJ is right, though, Karl. That explains to me everything about the last few years. Is maybe there were excuses in previous years, and there was not the excuse this year.
Yeah, and if you look at the way they played, like he nailed it. They looked bought in, right? They looked solid. Like, compare them to Florida. I feel way better about the Caps game than the Panthers game. The Panthers were fortunate that they have maybe a little bit more of that. I don't even know if talent's the right word, but you know what I mean.
I think
Like,
skill. I think they have the young skill that you
yeah,
guys used to have.
yeah, exactly. So I'd say that they just had a little bit more of that, but their game is just like kind of wide open, right? The Caps didn't have that. They were a completely different team from the regular season to the playoffs there. Like that's a team that buys into something that they know needs to happen in order to win. And I look back at we had the one year when Dale Hunter was the coach. I thought of all the years I was there, that was the hardest team to play. We were the hardest team to play against of all the years I was there. We shut everything down. We didn't care about run and gun. We still had the players to go out there and run and gun if we had to, but we were bought into a system that was boring as heck to watch, and we would bide our time and score in the power play. And it just didn't work out. And those are the years that are almost more frustrating than the ones where you're just, you come out like a bat out of hell and you should win every game 5-3, 5-4, 6-4, whatever it is. And so I feel like that's probably part of the frustration too, is knowing that they were right there. And it's just like looking back at some of the goals, like a bounce over a stick on a play that's typically a routine dump in, or
Ferravari off Ferravari, like an in.
Exactly. Like these are the things that happen in the playoffs, and in the regular season, you can just forget about it and go on to the next game. You're not playing the same team again. It's just whatever. But in the playoffs, it's magnified, and you have to face that same opponent the next day. And it's just hard to get out of that spiral that can end up happening. So, I guess I don't feel their pain the same way, but I completely understand what he's saying there. And I think the fans and media and everybody can see that they were bought in.
They were. And by the way, I think Ben Raby and I talk about this all the time. That 2012 team up until 2018 was that was the Capitals' best chance to win a Stanley Cup. That was your best chance.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And we were so close. Like talk about moments that you go back and think about, like one high sticking penalty where a guy ends up bleeding and the series is over. It's just kind of it's those things that you can look back on and try and pinpoint the issues. But yeah, that's playoff hockey. There's very few teams that can get through an entire playoffs without being completely bought in and just strictly rely on skill. It just doesn't happen in the postseason.
Yeah, and let's actually talk about TJ here, because 6 goals in the series, team high, led the team in scoring, all of that. Like, what was he doing so well? It was just he was scoring. He provides the energy, and he had to provide more energy because Tom Wilson wasn't in the lineup.
Yeah, so place to score goals, front of the net, right? That's just where you do it. Pucks come there. There's mayhem. They're bouncing all over the place. You stand in front of the net and good things happen. Then you have as much skill as he does with hand-eye coordination, being able to tip pucks. That's just even better, right? His determination. He's so gritty. Wants to win every single battle. He's the guy that said to me, I don't know that I said the story on here yet, but I think it was the first year he was with us, and we were doing a power play PK practice, and I think I stripped him of a puck in the corner, and I was going to go dump it out, like kind of casually,
right,
as I'm on the PK, and then out of nowhere he picks my pocket from behind. He takes it to the net, one pass, they score, and I'm just like, the heck just happened there? Like, I had this, I was just about to dump it out. He skates past me and he just says, never give up, never surrender. And I started dying laughing. Like, that's just his attitude, right? He's never going to quit. He's always going to be involved in a play. And I really took that to heart. And I say it to my kids now all the time, that's got to be their motto. And so that's just the type of player he is. And I think he definitely brought his game to the next level. He has the skill to be able to make, fancy plays and toe drags and stuff through the neutral zone and blue lines and stuff, which that's more of a regular season thing. And I don't think he did that very often in the playoffs. You could see he was a little bit more even straight lines at times and just doing what he had to do in order to get into the next position. And that's just awesome to see. That's the switch that was flipped, the playoff switch. And, yeah, he brought it to the next level. It would be nice to see a few other guys that could have got there too.
Yeah, and that's well, let's talk about that in the next segment here, because I just found out the exit day interviews are Sunday, so we're going to talk to everybody about that. So Karl and I, when we come back here, we'll talk about kind of what those exit interviews are like, not the interviews we have to do, but with coaches, GMs, and that sort of thing, and kind of some of the questions facing the Capitals as we go into another uncertain offseason. Welcome back to All's Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl and I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. Again, kind of breaking down what went wrong with the Capitals, another first-round exit, losing in 6 to the Florida Panthers. But exit interviews are Sunday, and you've been through many of these over the years, Karl. Like, what is it like for players kind of having those interviews? What went right? What went wrong? The exit physicals? What guys were playing with? Because there's a lot of stuff we don't know about injuries and what guys are dealing with this time of year, and kind of what is it like to go through all of that?
Well, it's a lot. I mean, that's a lot right there. I guess we can start with the injury stuff, because that's always interesting, I think, for fans to find out what everybody's dealing with. And
yeah, we'll find out. I mean, whether it's John Carlson, we know Tom Wilson was a knee issue of sorts.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, see the severity, if they'll even say, what the severity is. And then all these little bumps and bruises that can just completely change your game. Like I explained it to you, and I explained it here too. Like there's my last year there, I had a hand injury where I could barely hold on to my stick, and me and Brooks Orpik were on the ice, and Patrick Hornquist ended up getting a breakaway pass, going in and scoring it. It was like a pretty big goal in that game. And I was playing the right side. And so as a lefty, like, I have to bring my stick over to that side. And all I can remember is like going through my head is like, I can't move my stick fast enough because my hand is mangled. And I'm like, if it was a normal hand, I poke that puck away, 99 times out of 100. And it's just one of those things that we don't know, or fans don't know, what little issues they had that, changed their game from being, a perfect, 10 out of 10 feeling versus a 5 out of 10 feeling. And that's even a 7 out of 10 feeling in the playoffs is huge. So we'll find some of those details out. And that's kind of what these exit physicals are, seeing how bad it is. Are you going to be cleared, or are you not going to be cleared? You're going to have to, get your surgery done right away. It's just normal. The teams that get all the way to the finals and win, from my understanding, is they're typically a little bit more healthy. They don't have any of those really big, devastating injuries, and they can find a way to win, or they have somebody just come out of nowhere and step up. So that's always interesting.
That's part of the luck, though, right? That's part of the what you need to go right in a playoff run.
That is, yeah. You need matchups, you need no injuries, and you need some luck, right? Those are the three big things right there. So unfortunately, they didn't have that. And then the meetings itself, those are always kind of interesting, because so much depends on, are you free agent the next year? Are you still under contract? And so it'll either be, you'll go into your meeting knowing like kind of the direction it's going in. If I had a good year, then my meeting's going to be pretty good. We're going to talk about some of the good things we did, how we can get even better next year. If you've had a tough year, then it's, the conversation is a little bit more awkward. The coaches will go over things that you need to be better on and stuff like that. And then you go even deeper. Sometimes there's questions about the coaching staff and the trainers and things like that. And then you give your opinion on that stuff. And some guys are brutally honest, and other guys just would rather, plead the fifth.
Were you brutally honest?
I was never brutally honest. I would never offer up any information that wasn't specifically asked for. Like, okay, hey, we need to know this because we're thinking about making a change. And in that case, yeah, but I'm always weary of like being tested too, right? Like, hey, what do you think of, let's just say Carly, what do you think of Carly? And I'd be like, oh, you go brutal the year or something like that. And they're testing me, I was always worried something like that. And then that obviously never happened like that. But I'm always thinking, are they trying to find out something about the type of guy I am? So it's kind of weird. But yeah, so that's how those meetings go. And you're always curious to see how things shake out. Like we talked about the Barry Trotz thing, right? How did those year-end meetings go?
Probably not good for Barry.
It doesn't seem like it, because we're all trying to figure out how this ended up the way it is. I haven't heard anybody say that they were expecting this. And if they were expecting it, then they must have known something that nobody else knows.
Something was off.
So it's just strange. But that's some weird things can come out of those meetings, and they have in the past.
Yeah, and we'll debrief and do plenty of off-season conversation later. But I do want to get your thoughts on two things before we go. One is the goaltending situation. Did Ilya Samsonov or Vitek Vanacek earn another year here? What are they going to? What should they do there? And Nick and his health. how big of a concern is that moving forward?
So let's start with the goalies there. I'm still torn. I don't know how you feel about it.
I'm torn too because I don't know. You don't know who's available, but the question is, if you're this team and you can pick one of those two guys to bring back, who do you bring back? Do you bring back Samsonov because he's the high risk, high reward, can steal games? Do you bring back Vanacek because clearly Peter Laviolette prefers him and he's stable?
So the way that I would look at it probably is because I feel like they're so even, different goalies, but kind of even in what they will bring, is you probably go out there and look who's going to give you the best value in a trade.
Sure.
Like I always look back, and I don't know the details of it, but look back to the stuff with Vegas and Fleury and Robin Leonard. Like I would assume Fleury was more of a desirable asset to teams.
They got nothing for him. Vegas got literally nothing for Marc-Andre Fleury.
That's the thing. It's like they did not. There wasn't enough done there. But you look at like what other teams are going to want, right?
Sure.
So who do teams want more? Do they want Sammy or do they want Vitek? Right.
That's for sure.
So then that's kind of maybe the way you go. And if you can get something really good in return, and you feel like they're pretty even goalies, then you get rid of the one that's going to bring you back more, right? So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in the goalie situation that if you're going to bring in a 1A, if you're going to go get a Cam Talbot, a Darcy Kemper, someone like that, and you need a 1B who's solid, who plays 38 to 40 times a year, Vitek Vanacek will give you that if you don't need him to start in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'd be great in that position. If you can go out there and find somebody else, then by all means explore that option. But I'm at this point, I feel like it's a toss up, and
it is.
And this goes to the coaching staff and the goalie coach and whoever they feel like they can mold a little bit more, have some more confidence in. So that's my thoughts on that. And then the health of Nick. I mean, I don't really know. It's hard to say. Like he still looks pretty good out there. Like he's not. I'm sure if you actually had the numbers, I would assume when you get to that age, you slow down just a little bit, but everything else is still there.
He just looks a step and a half slow.
Yeah. And so, that could also be, he hasn't been able to train the way he probably normally trains in the last couple of years. And I know that intimately it takes some time to get back to a level of being able to train and get yourself that prepared. For everything I heard that he's never worked harder this past summer to get himself into a position to play. And that's a really good sign that he was able to push that hard, but it takes time. Right. And he's the only one that's going to be able to gauge that this summer and see where he's at. But yeah, it's just the way it is. I think it's just reality. And you have to come to terms with his body being banged up, and you're going to get this out of Nick Backstrom from now on until his body is ready to train back to the level that he could normally train. So it's just injuries, man. That's the way it is.
And if he is able to take an off season and rest it and train and come back to being the Nick Backstrom, even at this age that the Capitals expect, and he's a really good third line center at this point, that's great. Because if you've got Connor McMichael on an entry-level, cheap contract, as you're, in theory, growing into a second-line center role, that's what the Capitals need. That's what the Canucks sucked after a bunch of years because they had the Sedins getting older, and they didn't have guys kind of filling the gap to the younger guys. The Capitals need Alexiev and need McMichael and need LaPierre to be able to fill in, and maybe Lars Eller's not back the next year because you need to clear cap space or something like that. But the Capitals need Nick Backstrom to be Nick Backstrom.
Yeah, they do. He's still the guy. Same thing as TJ, right? He runs a lot of stuff in that dressing room through different avenues than TJ does, but he still does. So you need him doing that. And you need him mentoring guys and molding guys. But third line, I mean, I still think he's a top two line guy. When you have a fourth line that the Caps have, like that's your checking line, right? So you don't have to worry about Nick having to play, such a defensive role if you don't want him to. You can have a
top nine that can score and balance it out where Nick is there, Connor's there, and and you can have a top nine that can score.
Yeah, that's true, and get a little bit more parity throughout the lineup, I guess, and instead of just having to stack those two lines.
Yeah, it's just balance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure, you could do that, and I don't know, I've said this. Nick is my favorite player that I've ever played with. Watching him play was just so much fun and such a treat. So It's be as patient as you need to be with this guy. Let him figure everything out, and he's going to be good because, man, he's special.
We're going to talk to you guys next week again on All's Caps. Karl, I want to give you one last parting shot. Anybody who's listening, whether it's the players, game ops, fans, just your thoughts wrapping up the season before we go into kind of off-season and exit day talk.
Oh man, well I don't want to get too into some of that stuff because I'd like to actually have like legit sit downs and I have so many ideas. I've always had so many. I'm an idea guy, you know. It was one of my nicknames was Activities Karl because I'm always thinking about doing something. And so I got a couple ideas I'd love to run past, things from like in-game ops to some pump-up videos and things like that. We'll get to that at some point. We can have like a good breakdown of what I think would work. And then actually it would be sweet to have a sit down with the team and see if anything can come to fruition. But I don't know. I think overall it was bit of a weird year, like so up and down. It looked exactly the way it felt, right? Like it was play good, take the foot off the gas, and kind of coast into the playoffs. And then here we go, playoff team. And then it just didn't. The result wasn't there from what we saw on the ice, the product on the ice. So I thought that was just strange. But this was really fun. I mean, chatting hockey and some lifetime.
Karl, stupid questions. We'll come back. We will be doing that again.
I still need to hit you with that too. So
we got to pick a time this spring, this summer to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Now that we're not breaking down hockey games as much, we'll get back into that. But I mean, I think this was fun. I'd like to get some feedback from people. If anybody listening wants to reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, give us a little bit more feedback because I've had kind of mixed reactions from some people that love the interviews and the questions and other ones that love hearing just about hockey. So it'd be nice to get some listeners' point of views, and maybe we'll kind of tailor things to that. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time. So I'm happy we did this.
Me too. As Tony Kornhauser, I like to say, we'll do better next time. We'll try to do better next time. For Activities, Karl, I'm Steve. Thanks everybody for listening this season. We're not going anywhere. We'll probably be back once a week for the rest of the playoffs in the summer, and you'll still be hearing from us more Karl stupid questions and of course more hockey analysis as we get on. Thank you everyone for listening to All's Caps.